You know how you get crushes on lyrics to songs, and every time you hear it, it just thrills you? That lyric that says, "I stood outside and saw a little red-winged bird, burning like looking like a burning bush, and singing like a scripture verse." Every time that lyric just brings me to tears. It's so beautiful. Would you breathe with me, please? Taking a deep breath and let it out. And again. And release. And one more time, please. I'm always so grateful when people breathe with me. It helps me get grounded as well. So most of you know that recently I went to a conference at one of my favorite places on earth, the Asilomar Conference Center in Monterey, California. I was there for the Center for Spiritual Living. So our parent organization is called Parents for Spiritual Living. That too! Centers for Spiritual Living. And they have a retreat every other year called SOAR. And I was the co-chair of the event this year, and I'm happy to say that it was a great successful. Yay, 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 yay. I'm going to tell you about it in just a little bit. Thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. One of the reasons that Asilomar, this particular place, holds such a special place in my heart is that this is the place that people of our teaching, our official title is called religious scientists. Don't let the name weird you out. We're not Scientology. We're not Christian Science. We don't bite the head off of live chickens. That just happens to be the name of our teaching. And we have been going to this place on the tip of Monterey Bay for over 60 years. This is the place where our founder, Ernest Holmes, would give talks every summer, as well as some of our greatest and most well-known teachers and ministers. It's a very special place. Back in the day, I actually got a chance to speak there a number of different times from the big hall. That's like my main career memory is being able to stand in the big hall and give a talk. I used to be a big deal. Come on, you guys, that was funny. Yeah, thank you. So not only is this place so special to me personally, it also has a deep history in our teaching. And it is stunningly beautiful. This is one of the scenes. I didn't take this. I got this on the internet. But this is one of the scenes of the Boardwalk right outside. I mean, the beach is right there. Just to give you a little bit of a taste. So, I was the co-chair. So I got a little bit of a perk. And the perk was, this was my view for the entire week from my deck. This is what I know, right? Yeah, it's so cool. It's so beautiful. And this place, you have to understand, is super rustic. It's been around for over 100 years. They've been running conferences there for over 100 years, so they want to keep the rustic feel, because that's what's like. Raise your hand if you've been to Asilomar. Yeah, so you all know what I'm talking about now, right? Yeah. So for me, it all lends itself to kind of this magical mystery tour, this magical place where lives have been changed and transformed. In fact, the theme for the conference, or for the retreat this year, was On Sacred Ground, which coincidentally happens to be the name of my talk. I wonder if I planned it that way. Now, you can relax. I'm not going to spend the whole morning talking about this cool Asilomar Conference Center, unless you want me to. No, I'm not going to. I could, but I'm not going to. Because what happened was, as we were there, and we heard many magnificent speakers, and we had fabulous music, and we had wonderful workshops the whole week, what happened is that what everybody was talking about was that this was not the place That's not what made it sacred. What made it sacred were the people. What made it sacred was the energy, was the intention that we all had to create and to experience something transformational. That's what made it sacred. Because anytime you get over 500 people, like-minded people, who are there for the purpose of immersing themselves and being immersed in love and inspiration for 3.5 days, the place is going to be sacred. Yes? You understand what I'm talking about? Because as we've talked many, many different times in this teaching, is that each one of us brings with us our intention. Each brings our consciousness. We bring our vibe with us wherever we go. Ernest Holmes, our founder, called it our mental atmosphere. And he put it this way. He said, every person is surrounded by a thought atmosphere. This mental atmosphere is the direct result of thought, which in its turn becomes the direct reason for the cause of that which comes into our lives. So it is our vibe, it is our thought, it is our consciousness that creates the space in which we are. Are you with me? Okay. So I want you to imagine 500 plus people with the mental atmosphere of love and light and expansion and connection, all congregating someplace. Add to it this beautiful space. Add to it the history of the place. We could have even made Chernobyl sacred ground with that level of energy. It was something, there was an alchemy that happened that I've done hundreds of conferences, and I've never seen it happen like that before. Something happened that brought all this together, that it just went, and it was sacred. It was sacred. So what's interesting, though, with this mental atmosphere stuff that I'm talking about is the opposite can just as easily be true. Tell me if you've ever experienced this, that you've walked into a room where there's a group of people and you can just feel a vibe that's angry, frustrated, fearful. Ever had that? Yeah. And if we weren't feeling that way before, and if we didn't stoke ourselves up with our good consciousness, we can walk into something like that and pick it up just like that and start to be part of that energy. That's that mob mentality we're talking about, right? So even though this Asilomar place is beautiful, I think that if a group of angry or fearful or frustrated people had been there, I guess it's possible that the energy could have been that, despite the beauty and the calmness. I just never experienced that before. And I can't imagine it because this place, it's just not a beacon for angry people. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. I mean, angry people are not drawn to something called the refuge by the sea. So apparently, it isn't the actual grounds that made that event sacred. It was the people. It was the people that brought the sacredness with them, including 15 people from Calgary. I know. She's not in the room, so she's not going to be able to hear me say more nice things about her. But Amy was on the music team, and I will tell you, she absolutely brought the freaking house down. No question about it. No question about it. And I was funny. I was the MC for every event, and I got a chance to be funny the whole time. So I'm telling you, Calgary was well represented. And here's what happened. A few of our people had been to Asilomar before, but most were new, right? And they didn't have the same nostalgic, reverent feeling for the grounds that I did. All they'd heard was that it was beautiful and that the program was going to be cool. So bless their hearts. Bless you guys' hearts. You went. You just showed up without really expecting what you were going to find there. And I think to a person, they loved it. Yes, if you went to Asilomar this trip, would you stand up? Would you stand up? There's a group right over here, I know. Yeah, Connie, Connie, stand up. No, I'm I'm sorry. From one vertically challenged person to another, I'm sorry I made that joke. From what I could see as I'm speeding from one thing to another, because I know you all think I was on vacation, because I just happened to be in this really beautiful place. But you know what? I was working. I didn't have any fun at all. But they did. Everybody looked like they had fun. So when we got home, and I knew that I was going to talk about this today, I asked several of them to tell me what they thought on sacred ground meant after being there at the retreat in that particular place that holds such a place in my heart. And I'm going to share a few of them with you because I think that they really captured the point that I want to be making here today. Janice Chalmers wrote this: "The combination of being in the setting where Ernest Holmes gave his sermon by the sea, while gathering with hundreds of open-hearted beings immersed in the science of mind, was powerful. I had stayed at Asilomar years ago without a conference, and it felt so much more connected to the presence through this intentional gathering. It was like bathing in love. Once you feel that, you take that feeling everywhere you go. Truly, everything is holy now." And Tom Cuthbertson said this: "There's a joy of life that is seeking to express itself always and everywhere. It does not need our permission or cooperation to accomplish this, but when we do allow and affirm the power of the one in our lives, the results are magical. And when we do it in communion with each other, there is an unbounded miracle of empowerment that occurs as we collectively remember the fullness of our connection to Source." Oh my God! He's like he channeled Ernest Holmes. Warren wrote, "I believe our entire planet is sacred ground. We are immersed in the sacred wherever we are. We just need to let the sacred into our lives when we are doing whatever we're doing. It is up to each of us to open ourselves to our spiritual life." And finally, Leanna wrote, "Whether I'm walking through the dew-drenched grass, wiggling my toes in the sand, strolling the boardwalks of Asilomar, or standing on buckled asphalt in the city's core, it is all sacred ground. This awareness is amplified when I am consciously awake to my oneness with all that is." Everybody taking a deep breath. So yes, it was sacred for a whole lot of reasons other than the location. And I want you all to know how much I practiced saying the word in Canadian. Asphalt. It's not how we say it in the States. Asphalt. Yes. Do with it what you will. So as I often do when I focus on a particular word, I go to the dictionary because I want to understand the word fully. And I frankly did not care for the dictionary definitions. They were too churchy for me. They were too religious for me. For instance, here were two of them: dedicated or set apart for the service or worship of a deity worthy of religious veneration. Ew, right? I hear those definitions and I immediately think of secrecy and separation and duality, like God is out there somewhere and I can only approach at certain times under certain circumstances. Well, that's not what we teach. That's not how I think of things as being sacred. The deity that I believe in, this all and everything energy, isn't secret. It isn't separate. It's everything. It's everywhere. So one of the definitions that I did like is this one, entitled to reverence and respect. Yes? Can we get behind that one? Reverence and respect. That works for me because sacred is defined as living in awe, respectful, and reverence for everything. There's a saying that's been popular in our teaching for a number of years. I don't know who said it. I thought it was Rumi, but I can't corroborate that. So I'm just calling it from Anonymous. If you're not in awe, you're not paying attention. If you're not in awe, you're not paying attention. In other words, if you don't see the miraculous in everything, you're not looking for it, or you're not attuned to it yet. Because W.B. Yeats said this, the world is full of magic things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper. So what that tells me is that those who attended a retreat like SOAR at Asilomar, being surrounded by other people who were there with the same intention, were essentially sharpening their senses in order to be in awe. Does that make sense to you? Anytime that we are someplace where we can feel that we are sharpening our senses so that we can indeed walk through life knowing that everything is holy now. It's the consciousness, it's the awareness, it's the awakening that we're talking about here. And it can happen anywhere. In fact, it does happen anywhere and everywhere. I mean, it's easy to be in awe. It's easy to feel that you're on sacred ground when you're someplace in nature, or you're staring up at the stars, or you're gazing into the eyes of a newborn. Easy. But what we are endeavoring to do as we awaken to our true spiritual selves is to find it everywhere, every day, in everyday life, to find that reverence and that respect, that awe, that sacredness in everything. At work, on the highway, walking in the mall, on a dirty street with asphalt, cleaning the cat box, shoveling snow. Not yet. Or doing anything that we may not equate with sacredness or reverence, and still finding the sacred in it. It is everywhere. But here's what's cool. As we are building our ability to find the sacred in everything, it does help to surround ourselves with the things where it's easy to find the sacred. Are you following me? As I'm walking on the street and I'm trying to find the sacred, it's a lot easier if I've just come from the center. So the things that we can do to immerse ourselves, to cover ourselves with this so that we up our vibe is obviously spend time in nature, of course. Look at the stars. Hold a newborn baby. Look at the sunrise and the sunset. Go to the dog park and watch those happy guys. Come to Sunday celebration. Take classes and workshops. We have a few coming up. Read, watch videos, listen to music, meditate, hang out with your positive friends. If your friends make you feel as if life is anything but sacred, you need new friends. Pat? No. Do the things where it's easy to see the sacred in it, because then when you're in a place where it's not so easy to see the sacred, you can see the sacred. Because what happens is it raises our vibration. It raises our vibe. It increases our mental atmosphere. It changes. It enhances our mental atmosphere. So that as we vibe at a higher level, we begin to see with new eyes and hear with new ears and feel with a new heart. And then, as Thoreau put it, and I'm paraphrasing with Thoreau, I know he'll forgive me. When we do that, we will pass an invisible boundary, and new, universal, and more liberal laws will begin to establish themselves around and within us. And we will live with a license of a higher order of being. It's not that we're coming from a place of superiority, but when we do this work, we pass a boundary, and we begin to live in a place where everything does appear to be sacred. So we continue to grow, we continue to wake up, and we see life. We walk through life like this. Everything is holy now, and everything is sacred ground. I love you, and so it is.